we continue to talk about corporate innovation, internal entrepreneurship, and the launch of new products in preparation for the Price for Mistake Forum. I'm the partner of Mr. Investment Fund, Vitaliy Akimov. We continue to conduct webinars with international speakers. Today, our guest from California is Nicolas Sauvage, Managing Director at TDK Ventures. Nicolas, hi.
Hello. Hello, Vit. Very nice to be with you today. It's been too long.
Yes, thank you for joining us today. Tell us in a few words what TDK Ventures is about and what do you do there?
I'm hoping everyone in the audience remember TDK, but if you don't remember, it probably means you're below 35 years old. So for those who are below 35 years old, TDK was very famous for the cassette, the music cassette. But TDK is 85 years old company, and they started with ferrite materials and magnetics. Today we are one of the best company in terms of sensors and actuators, very high tech, but also we are #1 in battery solutions for consumer market. #1, bigger than the next 3. So TDK Ventures, to answer Vit's question, is a corporate VC that we set up at TDK to do exploration, which means we are exploring markets we are not in today, or who are very small today, but we expect to become very big tomorrow. And when I say tomorrow, I mean within 5 to 10 years, with technology we may not have. So the idea is to really think about all the big mega trends that we believe in and we want to be part of, but we don't have yet the market, the customers, the technology, or the use cases. And we want to invest in this innovation that comes from the startups. That's why we started TDK Ventures.
This was my next question. TDK company has created a corporate venture fund. Why? And you already answered this. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I can maybe show a slide that I presented to my CEO. So the little story is that when I attended Stanford the summer before I met with Vit, so I went twice to Stanford. I went to the Stanford Executive Program. And during that program, it became very clear that we should do inside TDK a corporate VC for this exploration purpose. And the slide I want to present to you is one of the key slides. There are 2 key slides, but I will start with the one that explains this concept of going into these mega trends where we are not in the market and we don't have the technology. So let me see if I can share. So here I was quite cheeky. So this is a charter that I proposed. And I mentioned this is a wave of disruption. And this guy who's surfing the wave, who's super happy and very proud and raising his hand, that's our business group today. They know the customers, they know the applications, they know the market, and they have the right technologies, the right competencies, they know what they're doing. But there's a massive wave of disruption and probably doesn't even see it coming that big. And so what I mentioned is TDK has, let me move to this, has 2 weapons today. One is corporate R&D and one is M&A. So corporate R&D, you all understand, and M&A is about inorganic acquisition. But the way it was organized is it's either going into the new type of customers, new type of market, but with technology we have, or new technology, but in markets we are. And so you can imagine there's this big gap where the wave of disruption is the biggest. And that's basically where I said TDK Ventures need to be. Now, it's not quite as simple as this square, 1 square out of the 4 square. So in this part, where the risk on technology is so high that even our corporate R&D wouldn't take risk, we may decide to invest. And one of the examples I was giving for this part is, let's assume we can find a startup that works on quantum computing with new materials that allow to run at normal temperature and not very, very low temperature, which means that suddenly you could start to scale at much lower cost. We would want to invest even if the risk on technology is super high. And that's where we basically said, this is why we want TDK Ventures. The other slide I could show is really back to this exploration and exploitation. Maybe it's a good analogy that I can explain. Exploitation is your company. So for the corporate VCs that are in the audience, it's your mothership. And their job is to go to the top of the mountain they are, and they are not alone in that mountain. They have competitors, but their job is to go to the top. And the top could mean revenue, it could mean profit, it could mean customer delight. But the point is, exploitation is to go to the top of this mountain and end up being on this picture at the very top. You won. Now, you never win completely because it's continuous, but the idea is to go to that top of the mountain, to be better than your competition, and to delight customers better than anyone else. Exploration is very different. It's about discovering new peaks. It's taking this helicopter, and it could be a cloudy weather, but you take this helicopter and you go to a different mountain. But because it's cloudy, you don't know if it's a big mountain or a small mountain. But you start. And in this case, the corporate VC goes into a new ecosystem, invest in startups, and start to learn about this new peak. And then, and this is a key point about corporate VC that wants to do exploration, this helicopter comes back to the mothership and share all the learnings. And the learnings could be, okay, this mountain looked attractive, but it's not attractive. Or this mountain is super good, we should do an M&A. And the M&A may not be related to the startups we invested in. It's about the one that makes the most sense for the mothership. And so the last slide I want to show you is really about the way I propose to map TDK Ventures. And what I said is we need to look at it from two different criteria or two different angles. One is the investment objective. When you're looking at M&A, it's an inorganic growth, while the objective for investing for a corporate VC in the exploration goal is learning. We want to learn about these new mountains. We want to learn if it makes sense for the mothership to go. And on the left side, you can see the angle is about, is it linked to a short-term need or not? Is it tight or is it loose? And corporate development is clearly in the tight and inorganic growth. While if you think about corporate VC, the way I presented it is, it's really about learning about these new mega trends much earlier than we would otherwise, but not linked to the short-term needs of a business group. And then what that means is the corporate development is clearly about the exploitation. Corporate VC is clearly about the exploration. And there is value in that the corporate development can send ad hoc investment opportunities to the corporate VC, and we can review them, and we can be very deliberate about them. So this is one of the things my CEO liked, because we would not just look at one investment opportunity, but look at the full ecosystem. And the most important is the next one, which is then we can send back more informed M&A information. We can help TDK to know which company really makes a difference and which ones don't. So it's a long answer to your question, Vit, but this is really the why we do our corporate VC, which is to learn in new ecosystems, these new mountains that looks promising, and then come back to the mothership to tell them where to go or where not to go. And sometimes I joke because our first fund is $50 million USD, so 50. And my expected return on this is $10 billion per year. And of course, it's not from the investment, but from all this more informed M&A information that will allow us to get the next big business for TDK, which would then be about $10 billion per year. That's the ambition that we have for our fund.
Great. Okay, continue to the questions. In one of your interviews, you told about Chinese menu of services and opportunities for startups. You described the situation when your very first portfolio company was pitched by internal TDK teams in context of what they can contribute to the startup. This sounds impressive, and is this widespread best practice for Silicon Valley, or is this some kind of your invention?
First, I'm going to say something that's very obvious for everyone, but I'm going to show you in a way that's very nice. The picture behind me is from Georgia. And the tree, I'm going to show you the tree because for me, it represents the life of a startup. And you can see how it goes up, but it can go down, and maybe it's about to die, and yet it can still go back up. And I love this picture because it tells the story of a startup. and the startup has a very uncertain future. And anything you can do to help the startup not to go to the ground, but to go up really matters, especially when you invest. So what we've done is we've really focused all our design in making sure that we choose what we believe is going to be a great startup, what we call the king of the hill. Remember the mountains? The idea is to go when the market is small. So we call them hills, and we want to get the king of the hill. And the reason we want the king of the hill is because they will help us to learn the earliest, and they are more likely to be the one engaging with alpha customers than pivot, than beta customers. But also it means we have a responsibility to help them along the way. And one is it makes sense to help them, but two, it's good for our investment. Because if we can do anything to reduce the risk along the way or to accelerate their path to success, it helps us to learn more. It helps us to do a much better financial return. And actually, even though I mentioned the $10 billion investment from the Better Informed M&A, I actually want to do a 3x on our fund. So I actually want financial returns as well. Now, your question is it common in Silicon Valley? I don't think it's common in Silicon Valley, and I don't think it's common in many places. I've seen many VCs and CVCs that really care about entrepreneurs. They really care about entrepreneurs and they will not hesitate to help them. But I've seen very few that are designed to systematically help them. And to give you an idea about the design that we set up for TDK Ventures, one of our KPI where we are judged for our bonus is on the satisfaction of the entrepreneurs. And we use a NPS, Net Promoter Score KPI, which is we ask the entrepreneur, how likely would you recommend us to another entrepreneur? And if we don't do well by them, they will not recommend us to other entrepreneurs. If we do really well by them, one is we helped our investment, which is good for us and good for them, but also they will recommend us to the best entrepreneurs, which is what we want. We want the best quality deal flow from the top entrepreneurs that want us. And this is one of my biggest learning before I started TDK Ventures was someone from Sierra Ventures, a very good seed stage VC in Silicon Valley. And it was very simple. Ben, his name is Ben Yu. He said there is only two types of startups. And I was like, two types? I want to know these two types. And he basically said this, the companies that need your money, and there is the companies that don't need your money. You only want to invest in the ones that don't need your money. If they need your money, it means they don't have that many choices. But if they don't need your money, they actually are onto something big. And that means you actually want them to say yes. And to be able to design it in a way where they know we are going to help them, and this is part of our design, and we have people full-time to make that happen, gives them a lot of reasons why they would have TDK as an investor versus not.
Oh, this is very interesting point. You say two types of companies that need your money and don't need your money, and you want to choose the ones who don't need your money. But how you make them say yes to you if they don't need your money?
Part of our design is, so we have a full-time employee coming from TDK headquarters who relocated with us in San Jose. And his job function is actually called Startup Liaison. And what that means is his job is to bring TDK goodness. What we call TDK goodness is a number of things. But his job is every morning to wake up thinking about what TDK goodness he can bring to these startups. And again, this is about accelerating their success, reducing the risk. Reducing the risk could be, for example, we give them technical expertise, we help them find a customer, we introduce them to new VCs for the next round of funding. It could be a number of things. Potentially, we open our roadmap for them. And what's very important is they are able to choose what we bring to them. But from the very beginning, we try to bring that to them. And of course, to go back to your question, once they see that we are committed to bring value, and they compare us with another corporate VC that may have not planned it or designed it, and it's just words, or a financial VC that doesn't have any of this advantage that a corporate VC have, they will prefer us for the same $1 million or $2 million compared to the other guys. And at the end of the day, and this is what I think is very interesting, VC and corporate VC, many people think that we are the boss, we have the money, we give you the money, you owe us. And I think you really need to change this. The entrepreneurs are your customers. Even though you give them money, what you get in return is the equity, of course, but also the ability for them to recommend you to other entrepreneurs. And so it's very important to delight them. And by delighting them, I'm not talking about making them happy. I'm talking about making them successful.
One more question about this. You described TDK goodness, that it has a number of things. And if I understood correctly, this is something that happens after investment or beforehand. And if it happens after investment, how you make them to say yes, because it's like the promo, the demo version, or something like you will have this and this and this and this if you say yes. How you make this and yes before?
Okay, so maybe I have one more slide to show you. So this basically is a 6-slide or 7-slide presentation to the startups. And what I do is, of course, I talk about who we are, we show the team, and actually already when we show the team, I explain that we have Toshi, number 4 on this list, who is a startup liaison. His job is to bring the TDK goodness to you. So we are being very personal about this. And then we talk about TDK. We explain our vision, which is really about embracing digital, energy, environment transformation. And it's going from component-based to solution-based. And then I go straight to much more than capital, what we call capital plus plus. And here, I don't know if you can see the picture, but you're going to see a picture of me right in the middle, being very happy and opening my arms. And you see many people and balloons. What you may not know, but of course I tell the startup, is this is the day one when we became TDK. So TDK bought my company called InventSense. And on the first day of the acquisition being effective, they hosted us at the entrance, everyone saying, thank you for coming. And it was a really big party. And so what I say is, actually, when you join as a portfolio company, we want you to feel part of TDK family. We are going to help you. And of course, like all good family members, we are going to help you even before you join. If there is anything we can do to help you, we will help you, which in a way, this is a bit like of paying forward. We want to be helpful even before we close a deal. But they know how it's going to be afterwards. So we start to tell them about how we work. And so here we basically say, this is a Chinese menu, and we show a number of things. And we're being very explicit. It could be more. Tell us what could be helpful to you, and we will be able to do it. And so here you can see that we have the first bullet is startup liaison function to bring TDK goodness to startups we invest in. And this person is every morning thinking about how to add this TDK goodness to all these portfolio companies. Because it tells a story, but it doesn't tell the story of TDK Ventures. I want to tell the stories of my portfolio company. I want them to be successful. So every time I go to a meeting with a new VC, I tell them about Starship, the delivery robot, Genetesis, which does the cardiac triage in ER rooms much better and faster than what we have today. I talk about micromobility with wheels and their auto-cleaning handles because they knew about COVID-19 and germs, so they thought about this. SLD Laser, which is a material science that was founded by a Nobel Prize of laser light. I talk about Autoflight, which is a vertical takeoff and landing eVTOL, which is amazing, which is a company based in China and Germany. So I talk about all of these companies because I want to give them a chance to be known by other VCs.
This is very impressive approach. You mentioned paid forward approach, and also in one of your latest interviews, I saw this phrase, paid forward approach within a venture ecosystem. What does it mean and how it works on examples? Maybe couple more things about this.
So pay forward is very simple. It means that you give without an expectation of returns. So I'm going to help other VCs, I'm going to help startups, even if we get nothing in return. That's pay forward.
Yes.
Okay. And
yeah.
The point is, when you are known to be a giver, people want to work with you. People understand what value you give because you have already given the value. And I know this is really not typical, but what I can tell you is that I'm getting a number of deal flow because people like the way we keep giving and they've seen us giving, not necessarily to them, but they like the way we have given, which means that right now they have seen us helping startups where we told them we are not going to invest with you for certain reason, and normally we give a few reasons, but we think we can help you by doing this or by doing that. There is no returns for us. We are not investing. We are telling them no, but we're already telling them how we can help them, which means that many VCs actually want to send us a deal flow because they have a hope that even if we don't invest, they will still benefit. So paying forward feels very, very generous, and it is generous, but actually it has business sense. And this is something that I'm hoping I can convince your audience it makes business sense.
Maybe a couple examples.
We are looking at a company right now which is doing sensing. And I like this company, but I think they don't know which market they want to address. So they have a great technology, but they don't know the market they want to address really well. It's a company that actually is really cool because you have all these signals coming from satellites that bounce back from rivers or the sea or the snow. And they found a way with very proprietary sensors to be able to tell whether the water goes down or up. And today there is nothing like this, but they don't know how to leverage this. And so what we've done is we said, look, we're interested by what you're doing, but you're too early for us. But we are going to introduce you to a different number of VCs. And so far we've introduced 2 of them, and we are about to do one tomorrow, a 3rd one. And these VCs like it because we only present them because they told us they were interested. We know what they are interested in. In this case, one of them, they were interested about sensor. And another one that I talked to yesterday, and that's why we introduce them tomorrow, they want to invest in fintech. And they like anything that has to do with creating new type of data with new type of sensors. And here they feel like if you can tell whether the river is going up and down, that could have an impact for insurance. Are you going to have damage because of water or not? And so they feel like there is something. They don't know, but they feel. And so we will introduce. And you could argue we are doing all this work, which takes a lot of time to do the right introduction, double opt-in, making sure it's valuable on both sides. But this is paying forward.
Once again, about this interview, you said that TDK Ventures committed to fundamental material science as a basis. How this idea already applied in your portfolio? Could you name a couple examples?
One that is very obvious is here, SLD laser, yeah. The one from the Nobel Prize winner. They have something truly amazing, a laser light that can go so far. It's really unique. And we invested because one, we can add value because we have materials they need for their solution. And materials that are very hard to do, and TDK knows how to do it well. 2, and here this is a late stage company, but inside that company they have 2 very early stage projects where we can really help them and we can learn a lot. So in this case, it's really a material science company that needs a material science partner like TDK. And so this is a very obvious one. The one that I can't talk about, but I'm hoping to close in the coming weeks, is a renewable energy company in Israel. And again, this is all about chemical reactions and all of this. I can't say much, but what I can say is that all our know-how about material science and chemistry really matter for them. And we're going to help them be more successful because we think it's good. It's a really good renewable energy solution that can reduce CO2 really well, and of course, making a good business sense.
First, I wrote down that could you name an example, and then I understood that laser company is the obvious example. Then I decided to.
I think since that material science also means that we understand how to do sensors like gyroscopes, like microphones, like pressure sensor. And so one of the value we add, for example, for Starship or for Wheels is, or even the vertical takeoff and landing companies, we can bring all this technology about sensors, and we can open our roadmap like they were a big customer, even though there are very few products. So the point is we can help them on sensors, but we can also help them on batteries, because like I mentioned, we are #1 in battery for consumer market. So we actually understand how to help them.
Wheels is not the first company that produces electric bikes. How they differ from competitors?
They are the king of the hill. They will be the winners. So, and I'm being cheeky because you never know if they will be successful or not. But what I can say is my first investment was Starship, which is a delivery robot company. And what I really liked about them is that they had very high NPS scores. So customers of Starship were very happy. They really enjoyed it, and they talk about it for many other people. And they had an amazing, profitable unit economics. Every time they delivered, they had a very nice profit margin. Because their job is to replace the guy who's driving or taking the bike with the food, and who is dangerous and who is sometimes making mistakes. And these robots, you can just see on your mobile app when it's coming, and when it comes, you can unlock with your phone. So what we really like was it's technology driven. We can help them. Financially, it looked like it could become a unicorn, and I still think it will become a unicorn, but it had very nice profitable unit economics. And then Wheels, and maybe this is a good example to mention about Wheels, because this is a company that was introduced to us by the managing partner of DBL. And DBL is one of these top double-line VC in Silicon Valley. It's as good as it gets. They just raised a new fund right now during COVID-19, and I think they are about I think they are a $550 million fund. Okay, they are the top of the top in terms of VC. And Ira is a managing partner, and basically called me on a Thursday. And he said, Nicolas, I just closed an investment in micromobility. You said you're interested in micromobility. And again, I've seen you helping Starship. And the CEO of Starship told me you were great with him. You see, the pay forward is important. He thought of me and he said, Nicolas, I can get you into the round for the same price I paid. I said, great. But there is a catch. You need to invest within 7 days. Okay? And so my answer was simple. I would say, okay, let's talk to the CEO today or tomorrow. And so the day after, I talked to the CEO. It was Zoom calls because they were in Las Vegas. And I loved it. But what I loved was it was very similar to Starship. It was very nice, profitable unit economics with a path to much higher profitable unit economics. I can't share the numbers, but they're amazing. At the time, no other e-scooters or e-bike companies had a profitable unit economics. They already had good percentage, double digit, no one had. Now what's happening today is many of these e-bike company and e-scooter company are struggling. They don't have customers during COVID-19 and they were making loss. And here I think what I love about Wheels is they are very resourceful. So they've already updated their proposition where you can, if you're working in hospitals, you can rent the bike for a week or for a month at a special price. So actually, even though there is fewer customers using the bikes, they actually found people to use them. And on top of that, they made a partnership with a material science company where the handles kill the germs very quickly. So you're not worried about using them because actually the handles are self-cleaning. And then there is one thing which was very important for TDK is that they are security first. So actually everything they do is for safety, and they work very closely with cities. And if you think about it, e-scooters, cities are not designed for them. There's nothing for them. But e-bikes, They already have the architecture because they have the bike lanes.
Okay, let's check the questions from the audience. Anna asks, how to tell inspiring story to investors or partners? Can you highlight some pillars to rely on?
Inspiring stories is our job. Our job to make sure that we add value to the entrepreneurs, because once you do that, you have an inspiring story. It's as simple as that. If you add value to your portfolio company, then you can talk about it. Better than that, they can talk about you, about these stories. And so for me, what's really important is to tell stories about your portfolio company. So I'm not talking about TDK. I mean, Vit is asking me about TDK Ventures, but really, normally I only talk about my portfolio company. If you go on my LinkedIn, you will only see me posting about the portfolio company. I don't talk much about anything about TDK Ventures except when we recruit someone. But I talk a lot about our portfolio company. That I'm very proud. So for example, Starship, 2 weeks ago, was on the cover page of New York Times. Really nice. I brag about it. The point is, anything I can do to promote my portfolio company, I will do it. Now, an inspiring story maybe on raising money for Genetesis. So Genetesis is one of these companies that we looked at while it was already a pandemic. So we were all remote and we did all the decision making remotely. The only thing we wish we could have done, we couldn't do, was calling the ear doctors to have their feedback, because that was not the time to bother the ear doctors during COVID-19. But everything else we did. And for the ear due diligence, we relied on a very nice co-lead investor. So actually they had done that before.
How do you usually look for technologies and startups? And at the same time, a couple more questions. Are you looking for startups around the world, or for example, only in Silicon Valley? And do you have any experience with the Russian teams? What do you think about this, about the prospects of Russia in this regard?
So what that means is we are looking for the company that's going to disrupt the world. And if it's a company from Russia or from China or from Europe or from Israel, we don't care. It's where they are. So to give you an idea, Autoflight, which is the eVTOL company, this is a company between Germany and China. And there are 200 plus companies that are claiming to do eVTOL. But what we realized, and when we search and research this topic, we realized one thing that was so powerful. If you look at any of this eVTOL company, there are two types. The types that are done in Europe or US, and they look like planes. Why? Because the skills come from Boeing or Airbus. If they come from China, they look like drones. They will have the drone skill set because of DJI. The problem is, if you want to do a very good vertical takeoff and landing, it's all about dollar per miles and a good takeoff and landing. It means you need the best of drone and the best of a plane together. And so what we realize is there's only one company in the world, which is both in China and in Europe, and this is Autoflight. And they have the best dollar per miles traveled. And a week or 2 weeks ago, they beat their own world record. Their world record was on a single charge, all electric, 5 hours of flying. 2 weeks ago, they beat it by 1 hour. So now they are 6 hours flying. I think the next best competitor is about 1 hour. This is the king of the hill. Now you ask about Russia, and for me, Russia is a place I wanted to come when you invited me the first time. You are famous for technology, mathematics, chemical science. I mean, I can't wait to invest in Russia. I think this would be great. But I'm only going to invest if I find the king of the hill. So if you guys who are listening, you know a company that's in the material science, high tech, and they want someone that can help them like TDK, I'm in. So send it to me.
And final question from me about this COVID situation. How coronavirus pandemic influenced your work, or are there any changes at all?
So, well, first influence is that we work from home. I actually asked my team to work from home even before anyone else was asking that. That was the day the WHO said it was a pandemic. So I basically said, guys, work from home. The other change is, of course, we are remote. So there's a lot of things that we have to do remote, but we are a young startup in itself. So we are 1 year old and we have all the collaboration tools and Zoom and whatnot. So we don't have a problem to collaborate and we are very fast. I think the big change for us is we end up with more, if I put the analogy with sales, more customers and less competition. More customers means we have more entrepreneurs who are looking for cash, either because it's time for them to raise, or they don't need to raise, but they want to be safe because they don't know how long this recession will go. But the competition has reduced because many corporate VCs and some VCs have stopped investing or have reduced investing or are slower to decide to invest. And we are in full operation, which means that right now we are getting really good opportunities coming to us that before were not coming to us, and we don't have competition. And what that means in practice is, if I look at one of the investments we made, we got the valuation from the previous round. Really nice. Where they should be much higher, we are the same. And if I look at the one that we are looking next, we have an amazing VC that is inviting us to an insider round. No one else that has not already invested is getting into the round except us. And again, it's back to our credibility because we've been introduced by someone who knows we are focused to add value to the entrepreneurs.
This was amazing interview. Thanks a lot. Stay healthy and good luck with your portfolio. And yes, once again, thanks for this interview. It was amazing.
Okay, I'm glad you liked it, and hopefully there is more I can tell when I come to Russia. So when it becomes possible, then let me know. And if you find people that knows about good startups, and it makes me come even quicker because I will be able to meet these startups. So anyway, it was great, Vit. Your questions were super nice, and I hope it was useful for your audience. See you guys.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.